Yeah.
Wonderful. So yeah, same as what we did with your wife. Do you have any questions ahead of time or anything like that?
Me? No, I don't have any questions. No.
All right, cool. So yeah, the main thing is going to be, hold on, that is hilarious. Did I just send it to the wrong person?
Yeah, I think, wait, you might have.
Yeah, I did. Well, no, so I sent you the correct email, but I just sent a Instagram message to the wrong person.
Let's say.
Yeah, I have 4 podcasts today, so I need to be on top of my game for who I'm sending things to.
Busy day. Yeah. I was gonna say, because you're like, say something about my wife. I'm like, I'm not married. So
this guy's off to a start. We'll see how that goes for him. So not the same as we went with your wife. So the main thing that I tell people, everyone's really good at getting to kind of where they are now and the exciting stuff. But I like to talk about the small steps and what happened and led up to where we are now. So it's usually like an hour and a half. But at the beginning, I really like to talk about the stories, childhood and whatnot, and how we got to where we are. So if we don't rush through that part, I'd be okay with it. So that's my main suggestion.
All right, that's fine.
All right, cool. And then yeah, if anything needs to be edited out or anything like that, we can do that. If you see me looking over here, that's because I'm looking at the audio, making sure that I'm not way louder than you, because I can change that as well. But yeah, other than that, we will get started because I can make sure I'm on the right number there. But yeah, cool. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll get started the same place that everybody else does. Starting from kind of when you can remember to about middle school, what were you getting into as far as activities, sports? What'd you do?
Like when I was a kid, you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all right. So as a kid, I was doing everything. Played baseball, soccer, basketball. Never played football because I was like very tiny. But yeah, I was always in sports. So year round playing sports. In the summer when my teams didn't have anything, I was going to some kind of sports camp. So while other kids are going to like sleepaway camps, I was going to a sleepaway baseball camp or a sleepaway soccer camp, or a day camp for basketball. Or if I was doing a day camp, I tried to do as many sports activities there. It's just, I don't know. It was something I always fell in love with. Never anything I was forced into, which is great. I know a lot of kids are like forced into activities or their parents put pressure on them. Really far from it, honestly. I would always have to ask my parents, like, hey, can I go camp? Can I go to extra weeks of camp this year or something like that? Like, and they were like very supportive of it, which is great. It was just, I can't really explain why, like, I just love sports so much. It's just, it was always my escape, I guess. So yeah,
for sure.
Doing that. And then even with friends coming over, we always played sports. It was literally everything was sports.
Absolutely. So did your parents, were they really into sports as kids for themselves, or did they play sports in college? How did they even introduce you to sports at such a young age?
So that's the interesting part, actually. So my dad did play sports as a kid. He played baseball and basketball throughout high school. And my mom didn't really play sports, but I have a feeling that she actually was athletic, or like, because like we play like games, like we'll play games on the beach and stuff, and like even with like back pain and all that, she's like surprisingly athletic. Yeah. And I'm like, I think she has those athletic genes. So I think I actually get a lot of my athleticism from her. And my obsession with sports actually does come from her. So my dad like doesn't really care too much about sports. My mom is obsessed with college basketball, mainly like Duke basketball. Like she watches every game. She's a big Giants fan as well. And like, that's where I get my enthusiasm for sports from. So I get that from her. But then my dad is the one that actually played sports as a kid. So I mean, and then in terms of just signing up, I guess, just like every little kid, the parent signs you up for T-ball and signs you up for the, 7v7 rec soccer league. And then you go from there. And I did, the rec basketball, like my dad coached me when I was in like first grade. And then I played again in 7th grade and he coached me. It's just like, yeah, step and find what sticks with you. Like, I didn't stick with basketball, but I probably stuck with soccer and baseball because I liked it.
Yeah. So did you, obviously you're doing the camps, you're doing all that stuff. Did you ever do any like work kind of on your own when you were just like outside in the backyard, or what did it
Mhm.
look like when you weren't doing specific practice and or camp?
Yeah, all the time. When I was in middle school and high school, I had this little like 6 by 12 soccer net in my backyard, like so 6 feet by 12
Nice.
feet. So it was little, and I would use like a small ball in it so it didn't rip the net, and I would just go outside for like 1 2 hours and just kick the ball, like practice free kicks.
Yeah.
I would do this all year round pretty much. What I remember most is doing it in the winter when the backyard is covered in snow, and I would like pile up the snow a little bit to get a nice little high spot and like take like nice little free kicks from it. And it was like, yeah, it just shows that like it reminds you how much you love the game because
Mhm.
most people are like, oh, it's nice outside, let's go like play some sports. But no, it was 30 degrees and there's snow on the ground. But I was going out there because like I wanted to get better and I wanted to be playing soccer. So like those are
Yeah,
probably one of my biggest memories.
absolutely. So when you're going and taking free kicks, are you watching? I probably at that time YouTube wasn't even around, but how were you picking drills? How were you knowing to kick better? Were you just doing repetitions, or what did your knowledge look like
Well,
of the
this was like the
sports?
beginning of YouTube. So
Okay.
when I was in middle school, all right, so middle school would have been like, all right, so yeah, mid 2000s. So like this is probably around 2005, 2006. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, YouTube was around. It was new, but it was there. So yeah, I would watch like free kicks from like Ronaldo, like the original Ronaldo,
Yeah.
and Roberto Carlos and all them. Like watching those and and David Beckham too. Like just yeah, try to emulate those as best I could. Yeah, so just kick around, and then in terms of drills, like I mean, I was never super competitive to the sense of where like, all right, let me look up drills. It was just
Mhm.
more like I remember stuff we did in practice with the team, and I would just kind of do some of that stuff. But it was more just like kicking the ball around, just like having fun. But
Yeah, for sure. So was there somebody sports wise, either on your team or just you knew of that you looked up to that kind of was like, oh, I want to be like this person, or was it mostly like I want to be better than myself? What was your driving force?
yeah, I never really had someone that I'm like, oh, I want to play like this person. Like maybe like at baseball, like maybe like to extent Derek Jeter, like
Okay.
I would like my batting stance like look like his. But other than that, it was more just like yeah, having fun with it and just trying to be a better player.
As far as coaches wise, other than the sport itself, was there anything that you like picked up from the coaches that you're like, oh, hey, like this is good that I can bring into my sports life? Like not necessarily just like a drill, but any like mindset that they were able to kind of transfer to you?
I guess more so like when coaches were relatable and to out like relating like your outside life and all that to the game. Like for example, I had one of my soccer coaches in high school. It's like all right, so we weren't like the best team, but we were all like very smart. Like we were all like academically inclined. Like we all knew like most of us were not going to go play competitively in college. Like maybe
Okay.
D3, but that's it. But like we are all focused on academics, and he would relate to that. He's like, all right, you all are very smart, you all like get into your heads a lot. Like he was like, so he pointed out not like it's not a skill thing. It's more like we're overthinking things because that's who we are outside of soccer as well. So I
Oh,
kind of related
interesting.
that, and I use that all the time now when I'm doing nutrition coaching too, like
Yeah.
working with athletes, adults, whatever it is. I always find, all right, what is it outside of this nutrition session that's making you, think these certain things or act a certain way in terms of nutrition, or in terms of way you eat and relating to that. So like for adults, I'll relate their job to it a lot of times.
Right.
I'll make analogies there. For athletes, I'll make analogies to their sport and how it relates to like the way they're
Yeah.
behaving with food.
That's good that you didn't take it harshly when they said, "Oh, hey, like we know you may not be the best, but you guys are pretty smart." So if I
Yeah.
was told that, I'd be like, "No, I'm good at soccer."
Well, no, he didn't say it like that, but he was like, it was just because our team wasn't good. He like said, like, you all are really
Right.
smart, like you're overthinking it. Yeah. Yeah. He
Yeah.
didn't say you guys are bad.
Yeah, when I played tennis in high school, we always played this school, IMSA, it's Illinois Math and Science Academy, and the kids like in tournaments when we would play them, they'd be doing homework and like have classes like in between matches and stuff like that. I was like, nope. Like I'm here for tennis. I'm gonna forget about that report, but you guys, you
Oh
guys
yeah.
got this.
When I was at Georgia, yeah, that was like when I was at Georgia, our tennis players, like when we had the day long like tournaments, so like one of the players like doing her math homework like between the
Oh,
the games.
Yeah.
And the best, which is, this could be sound very stereotypical. When I was with the soccer team at Duke, we had an away game at Wake Forest. It was like about an hour and a half bus ride. And it was on a Saturday, and some of the kids like brought homework on the bus to do on the bus on the way to the game, because this is Duke soccer. Like, you can't waste time. Anytime you have a chance to do your homework, you're doing it. Yeah, it was really funny.
For sure. So as far as high school goes, what were your sports, and then are you playing on like development team, travels teams? What does athletics look like at that time for you?
Yeah, so I played freshman year. I did baseball and soccer, and then so I did soccer. I just did baseball in high school. I just did baseball for the freshman team there, and soccer I played for the school, and then also had my travel team outside of the school season. And then that next summer, going into sophomore year, I had a stress fracture in my back, and then played through it. By the time that recovered, like midway through sophomore year, the doctor said, like, as part of my recovery, like, I should only do one sport at a time. Like, don't do soccer and baseball seasons together because it'd be too much. So I decided to give up baseball because soccer was my passion. So then from sophomore year on, I just did soccer. But yeah, that was year round because I was doing, through August through November was high school season. Then November through June was my travel team. And then throughout the summer, we had tournaments with the travel team. And then I also went to a couple soccer camps as well.
Stress fracture, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
how did
it was
that
my back,
happen?
yeah. Well, so stress fractures are they're a combo of overuse and underfueling. So like I said, I was very underweight as a kid in high school, and I guess just was not eating enough in general. And obviously that was an issue. And then combine that with the fact that we had a new coach that year, and he saw a lot of talent on our team, mainly with the seniors that year. Mm-hmm. And we did end up winning state sectionals that year. So it was talent. So he pushed us very hard during preseason, like doing a lot of extra sprints, doing more 2-a-days than we were used to. And I guess I just wasn't fully prepared for it. So the overuse there, tight hamstrings, pulling in the back, combined with underfueling. Got the stress fracture in my lower back, played through it that season because we didn't know what it was. Finally went to the doctor after the season to get it taken care of. And that's what I stress now with a lot of my clients or potential clients, not a lot of my followers, is that stress fractures, they happen because of overuse and underfueling. A lot of you are underfueling. If you're a female athlete, it's easier to tell because you don't get your period.
Right.
And then you get a stress fracture, and it's a serious injury, takes a lot of time away from playing, costs money to rehab, and then you're not the same when you recover from it. So if I had known these nutrition tools when I was younger and I knew how to gain weight, fuel properly, like, I could be somewhere different right now. I could have maybe got more college offers. Right. I could have had a better season. Like, you never know.
So as far as fueling goes, what did nutrition look like in your family? Was it whatever your mom put on the table and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we ate healthy, but that wasn't necessarily enough. And now that I think back to it, it's not like maybe it wasn't always the healthiest. Like, it was basically a lot of chicken and rice and then like a salad, not always vegetable with it. We did pasta with meat sauce, which was fine. But like my breakfast was a Pop-Tart or like a cereal bar on the way to school. Yeah.
Typical school.
It was terrible. And I'm very open about admitting that because like I'll be not hard on my athletes now, but like I'll be like, yeah, you got to get a good breakfast in because I'm there to coach them and I'll tell them what to do.
Right.
But I was never I never did that as a kid, but that's why I didn't make it far as an athlete, but I'm trying to help you get there. Mm-hmm. And then lunch was, in the beginning I brought lunch, and then I think eventually I ended up just getting lunch at school every day because it was like, I realized somehow at 16 or 15 years old, I had a good financial sense. And I'm like, I think it makes more sense for me to buy lunch at school every day because it's only $3. So like, rather than you making me a sandwich every day, and sometimes I would forget it, like what's $15 a week for lunch,
That's actually not that bad.
Right. Because it's school lunches. So they're subsidized by the state. Like, even though like I didn't qualify for like free or reduced lunch, even still you get that subsidized price. So it was like $2.50, $3. And that was the issue too, is like they had subs there, which were great. But there was always a long line for it. So like if I didn't feel like waiting in that line, then I would just get like chicken nuggets and fries, which was bad. And then eventually at some point, my senior year, they actually did something where like you could go in the morning and write down what you wanted, and they would like make it ahead of time, so it was like ready for you at your lunch period, so you don't have to wait in that long line for the sandwich.
That's actually really smart.
Yeah, because otherwise the sandwich people were sitting there for 3 periods, like not doing much and then getting busy. So but yeah, other than before that, I was doing the pizza and fries, the chicken nuggets and fries. Like I wasn't eating healthy, and then I wasn't eating snacks. That's the main thing. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't, because I didn't think to bring a protein bar with me to school. Like I didn't know any of this stuff.
Right. So as far as influence on nutrition, was there a class like the generic health class that talks to you about the food pyramid, or what was your influence on nutrition in like high school or middle school?
It basically started junior to senior year. So junior year is when I started actually like lifting for real, like going to the gym like 5 times a week. So my friend got me into going to the gym with him. Initially, it was just so he could get a ride there.
Yeah.
Because like, so I had an early birthday, so like I was first to get my license. So he needed
Oh
a ride
man,
to the gym.
you were the guy. You were the guy.
October birthday in New Jersey, so I was like the first one to get it. So, but initially he just needed a ride to the gym, and it was annoying, but because I'm like, oh, you're using me for a ride, but he's the one that got me into lifting. He's honestly probably why I am a dietitian now and everything, because that's triggered it. Like I became that, and then he also taught me about like the protein shakes. I started doing that, and bam, like within the next few months, I finally put on like 15 pounds of muscle. Like the thing I've been struggling so hard my whole life for. And I started getting more into working out, reading up a little bit. And then it really didn't click until about a year later. So my mid-senior year of high school, I needed a job to save up for prom. So I my parents were members of Lifetime Fitness. So
nice.
Are you familiar with that?
Nice membership to have.
It's a nice gym for sure. So and they noticed there's a cafe there. So my dad's like, you should just call them up and see if they're hiring anywhere. So I called up. I forget why I chose the cafe. I think I didn't want to like fold towels or clean bathrooms. So I think the cafe was probably the only option really.
For sure.
So I did, so I called them up, they hired me, and then that's where I learned how to cook. So I really got into food there.
You're actually cooking there. It's not just like warming up or microwave and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like, well, there's prep chefs that do a lot of like the other stuff, but like it's not like advanced cooking. Like you throw the chicken in the oven and then like you put it in a wrap with the onions and like all the other stuff is diced up already, but it's still prep. And then, so I got into, that's where I learned how to cook. And then just being in that facility, like just seeing the connection, I don't know what it was, but seeing the connection of people like coming from their workouts and then getting a smoothie or getting something to eat after, noticing the differences. Like some people did good things. Some people were just like, I'll get whatever after my workout. Like, and just something clicked with the connection between nutrition and fitness. And like, this is what I want to do. Because I was actually deciding between a career in kinesiology or exercise science or going with nutrition. I saw less of a career path with exercise science. The really only option I saw were maybe research based, and I didn't want to really go into that. So I looked up dietetics, saw the courses that were involved with it, and almost got deterred. I saw organic chemistry and lab. I'm like, what? And I don't know, I stuck with it, and here I am. But yeah, it was really probably that job at Lifetime that is why I'm a dietitian. That's probably the main turning point. Yeah.
So what when your buddy tells you to come lift, what type of program are you doing? Like, where are you guys getting these workouts from?
Yeah, that was the thing too, because this is before Instagram.
That's where all the good programs are.
Right. There was no Instagram. There was obviously no TikTok. YouTube, I guess, was like sort of the thing, but YouTube wasn't really used for like fitness videos. It was just his dad was very into working out and he would go to the gym with his dad like on the weekends or something like that. So he learned workouts from his dad, and then he would like do those workouts with me. And then when I was on my own, if I went without him, I would just do like the machines or something like that. Like I had gone to the gym before, but very inconsistently, like nothing to stimulate growth. But so I do a lot of machines because there's descriptions on there, and then I would just watch other people. Like I learned exercises by watching people do. Like that's how I learned how to do cable flies, because I saw someone else do it, and the tricep extension and stuff like that. You just watch people, and I was very observant and just learned exercises that way. But it was definitely no like fitness coach I could reach DM and be like, hey, do you have a workout program I can follow? Like no, there was no that back in 2009. Yeah, I'll tell you that much. Kids have it much different these days.
For sure. So when you were going to lift, were you primarily looking for aesthetics? Were you looking for performance? What was your kind of idea going into lifting at that time?
That's actually really funny. So when I started lifting, I was like pretty much baffled by the fact that people lifted for aesthetics. Like it just, now it makes total sense. But like, honestly, cause I remember asking him, like, my one friend would go to the gym all the time and like, he didn't play any sports. I'm like, why does he go to the gym if like, he's not training for anything? And my other friend's like, we just want to like, look good. I'm like, oh, like I never thought of that. Like, I just only thought, because again, my entire life was sports. Like that's
right.
It's still like mainly all I think about is sports. So I never like thought about that. So yeah, I did train just for aesthetics, well, I mean, for performance, but like, I guess actually it was a little bit aesthetics because I wanted to get bigger.
Right.
So there was that regard, but I wanted to get bigger for athletic performance.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You're not just so you have big muscles, but so you can use them.
Right. Yeah.
So that friend that was just going for aesthetics, does he still lift?
I mean, I haven't talked to him in a while, but I imagine he still does. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to see how the lifting was going.
Yeah, I'm sure he's still into it.
So we're in high school. We're looking at dietetics. How did that bring you to college? Like, was that with sports at all? Or you're like, hey, I'm just going for school. What did the college scene look like as far as getting there?
Yeah, so I just went for school. I had a couple D3 soccer offers, but they came like mid to late senior year. So actually at that point, it was like actually late senior year. So at that point I was already, I already got admitted into Maryland and accepted and all that.
Very cool.
So, and I did make the decision that like, if I was going to play sport in college, it was going to be D1 or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against people that decide to play D3 sports. It's just like, I guess I didn't see a point in it for me because it was like, I don't know. There was no scholarship involved. There's no like glory because like no one like at the school like really goes to the games, so you're not on TV and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it wasn't worth the work of going into it and doing the running and all that kind of stuff again. Like
Right.
I want to focus on academics. In terms of dietetics, a lot of schools also don't have dietetics programs.
Mm-hmm.
But that's actually interesting because I didn't switch my major until like almost like right before graduation of high school. So I was already accepted and enrolled at Maryland. And I think I was gonna be like a statistics major.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they just happened to have a dietetic major, so that worked out pretty well.
that does work out pretty well. So
yeah,
what had you even pulling towards statistics at all? Why was that option A?
Because I had no idea what I wanted to do. Initially, I thought I wanted to go into like writing, like journalism or screenwriting, but I'm like, I don't like this. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. But I was always really, really good at math.
Mm-hmm.
And like mental math, like just numbers in general. So my parents were like, you should look at being like statistics major. You can go into like actuarial, like do stuff for insurance, like use numbers all the time, makes you really good money. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. But then like, so I was only just gonna do it because I knew I'd be good at it, but I don't know if the passion would have been there.
So you said screenwriting. Where did that play in?
I liked watching TV and movies. It was not it wasn't very long-lived. I realized it was not very practical.
So
I was very practical as a kid.
hey, there you go. So we get to school. What and then is it you're with your counselor and you see as you're signing up for classes, or what was the?
No. I decided before. Like I knew like I was still in high school. Yeah, it was like probably April or May of my senior year of high school that I decided that I was going to switch. But it was like already enrolled. Actually remember that, yeah, because I forget why, but when you take AP exams, I think one like the pre-filler questions, one of them asks like, what are you majoring in at college? And I took 2 AP exams, and I remember on one of them I put statistics, and on the other one I put nutrition, even though the exams were on the same day. So it was definitely around that time that I said that was probably around the time I decided to make that switch. So like, when I got to Maryland, I had to actually like officially switch it because I was declared a statistics, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was. Everything was online that I could look up. That's how I knew the courses and all that and what to do because I didn't know what dietetics was. All I did was I looked up like what's a nutrition major, what do you do to become a dietitian, like that kind of thing, and then it all worked out pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. So when we're living in the dorms, how were the dorms as related to like where the cafeteria or what did food look like your kind of like freshman, sophomore year in school?
So I never actually lived in the dorms because Maryland's weird where not every freshman gets into the dorms because it's just so many students and they can, accept more without putting everyone in the dorms. So I lived in an apartment off campus that was like designed. It was designated for freshmen.
Got it.
So it was almost like essentially the dorms in a sense, but it was an apartment, which is nice because I had a kitchen and all that. So I didn't have to use the dining hall there. So I did that freshman year. Then I lived in a fraternity house sophomore and junior year, and then on an off-campus house senior year. So I never had a meal plan or anything like that. There was like a student union with like fast food, and then I could go to the dining hall and use like cash there. So I would do that sometimes, which was nice because the dining hall was a la carte. So it's not like you needed necessarily like meal swipe for it. So you can go in and just like get a wrap and chips if you want.
Okay, so as far as freshman year goes, what was, I guess, going into college, what was your meal prep and planning like at home? What did that look like going into college?
It was nothing special. Like it was still the same stuff. Like I said, growing up, my mom would make dinner and all that kind of stuff. And maybe I was a little more cognizant of like that summer going into college, like a little more like cognizant of lunch and like having healthy things. And that's also since I had learned to cook that year, I was making more things. Like I would make like pizzas and stuff at home and things like that. Like I would do some of the cooking at home to help out my parents too. But there's still nothing like I do now, like no meal prep, stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you said you were fairly underweight in high school. What was your weight when you were in high school to kind of when you got to college?
Yeah. So until I started lifting, I was 5'8", around 120.
Okay.
It would fluctuate. Like it would usually get down to like 115 by the end of soccer season.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. Yeah. And then I think by the time I left for college, I was around 142 or so.
Nice.
So yeah. So I was able to put on a little bit in about a year and a half. Still underweight, but it was better than
for
sure. Stick, which was good. Yeah.
For sure. So did you play any sports or co-ed or any club sports when you were at Maryland?
Yeah, so I did intramurals when I was there. I was going to try out for the club soccer team, but it was interesting. It wasn't like straight up tryouts. One, it was very competitive. There was a lot of good players, but two is like you pretty much like you try out and like almost everyone makes it, but then like only certain people actually make the roster for the games. So like there's 70 people on the team that go to practices and stuff like that. And then you bring like 20 or something to the club tournaments. And it was very like political in a sense. So like, as a freshman, unless you like really stood out,
right,
you weren't really going to make the roster. You had to like know the captains basically, and stuff like that. So I decided it really just wasn't worth the time and money to do that. So I just stuck with intramurals.
Mm-hmm. So what did classes look like as far as like what was your expectation to what you actually found out in your dietetics classes?
Well, I knew it was going to be hard when I saw the course load, and that lived up to it. These science classes, for sure, because science wasn't always my strong suit in high school. So the biology classes were a bit of a struggle. Chemistry wasn't too bad. Like the general chemistry classes weren't bad because they were very math based. Right. So I was able to get through by that. The labs were hard, but like the class itself was easy for me because it was just math. But yeah, it was, I worked hard. Like I gave up weekends, stuff like that. Like, have you ever heard the saying where it's like, you can always make up an exam, but you can never make up a party?
Yes.
Yeah. So I live by the opposite of that. Like I missed a lot of parties and going out and stuff, especially during the week and even weekends and stuff like that. But I don't regret any of it.
Okay.
I remember even one time, so like with fraternities, you have like an away weekend at the end of every semester. So like you have formal and you like go away for the weekend and stuff like that. And one year I skipped it because I had like microbio and orgo exams that like the days after that weekend. And I knew I was like in the C range in those classes. Like I knew like if I bombed these exams, I would fail it, have to retake the class, and I would throw off everything. So I'm like, I'm going to give this up, make sure I pass. So I'm studying all weekend, make sure I pass all that. And like, I don't regret it. Like I don't regret missing out on those parties, missing out on the away weekend, because like I knew it's what had to be done. And there was plenty of parties to go to and other formal stuff like that. Like,
right.
So yeah, I knew there would be sacrifices, and I'm willing to make them.
Why do you think you were able to make that kind of decision at I'd say a relatively young age to know that, hey, this is kind of what needs to be done and I'm going to get it done, when you have all these voices in your head literally saying, hey, let's go party? Like, why do you think you're able to do that?
I mean, I was just disciplined. Like, I guess I just knew what I wanted. I had structure my whole life. And part of that, obviously, a lot of that comes from my parents, right? So, like, growing up, my mom was always like, not like very pushy on academics, but like, in a sense, yeah, like making sure we did well in school, like helping us out if we need it, like understanding the importance of getting education. And then my dad's a business owner, so he's a CPA. He's owned his own private practice for almost 35 or almost 30 years now, I think. And so he works hard too to make sure that it stays afloat and does well with that, so that I get that work ethic from them. And I just know that, like, just knowing, I don't know, it's just always very, like I said, practical with that, and just knowing what needs to get done. Like, I would be able to think that if I didn't, take this seriously, I could fail. Like, I was always thinking ahead. And so it was an easy decision to skip out on that stuff because I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted to be a dietitian. I knew it wasn't hard. I mean, I knew it wasn't easy because so it was very hard because with dietetics, not only is the coursework hard, so a lot of people quite a few people actually not failed out of the program, but dropped out of dietetics after freshman or sophomore year because of the science classes. And then even after that point, once you finish that program, you have to then do a dietetic internship. It's like a 9-month program. It's almost like residency for doctors, but
Yep.
1 year of it. You have to get into that program, and it's about at the time, it's like a 46% acceptance rate across the nation of like applicants that actually get matched into a program. So I knew it was very competitive. And that 46% includes people that maybe didn't get in on the first try, so now they have master's degrees or now they have work experience to go on to add on to it. So it makes it more competitive. And I knew I didn't want to do that. I knew I wanted to go right after college. I didn't want to go to grad school first or work first. Like, I wanted to do right away. So I knew it was competitive. I knew it was hard. So, and I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to get it done right away. So I knew I had to be very good in school. I had to get these internships. I had to have the grades, not fail classes. So I had that in mind. I was always a forward thinker, and that
For sure.
it's very important for anyone. Yeah.
So as far as you said, your parents kind of showed you, how did your dad and your mom, you said like he ran a company, but what was the stuff that was it what you saw day to day, or how were they able to kind of influence you in that direction?
I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of hard to answer because it was never like, so my mom was like kind of not hard on me, but she was like always on top of me with my academics in high school. And then when I got to college, it was like, you're on your own now. Like, I'm not going to push you or anything. So I guess it was kind of like, all right, like, I don't know, maybe make them proud. I don't know. Like, it was more just like, yeah, just seeing that work. It's just the work ethic I grew up around, I guess. And that's just, so I knew that like, this is, I guess I didn't know any alternatives. Like, I didn't know failure. I didn't know, slacking off or anything like that. It was just, I wanted to be successful, and I saw what hard work can do.
So those voices in your head weren't that loud in the opposite direction. It was more of, hey, I see this path and I'm just going to take this path where I need to go.
Right.
Yeah. Very nice. So then what did your nutrition look like while you were going through school? Were there certain classes that you're like, hey, I'm going to need to switch this up? What was the kind of foundation to your nutrition-ish that you have now?
Like my personal nutrition, like how I ate, you're saying? Or
yeah, so like what classes, like what studies were you like, hey, I'm going to change my nutrition, like this kind of changes how I'm thinking about food?
Yeah, I don't think there was really one class that clicked in terms of that. It was more like when I decided I wanted to be dietitian, like go into nutrition, like I all of a sudden started eating much healthier. Like, because everyone knows how to eat healthy. Like, don't do fried foods, don't do, like, everyone knows that stuff. So like, I just kind of switched to that. So I wouldn't say my classes necessarily like flipped that switch even more. I think it was just always kind of, I started eating healthy all the time. And I think more so like, yeah, learning the balance, like, oh, like, yeah, I'm supposed to include these at my meals, or like, okay, maybe I don't need to take supplements. Like, I was taking like glutamine and BCAAs. I'm like, oh wait, I don't need those. Yeah, I learned that part. There's like little things like that throughout, but yeah, there was no like, I wouldn't say there was one course that really like flipped the switch and be like, oh wow, like let's change everything now.
Okay,
it was very gradual.
For sure. So now we're gonna upset what is it, $300 million industry, or is it, I don't know how much it is, but
supplements?
Yeah, billion.
Yeah.
So why not glutamine and or BCAAs?
So glutamine is probably one of the dumbest supplements out there. And I'm sorry for any listeners that take it if I called you dumb, but it's not your fault. It's falling for the supplement source.
It's great, so glutamine sales. Great sales.
Yeah. Glutamine is an amino acid. It's one of the 20 amino acids. There's essential and non-essential amino acids. Non-essential meaning that the body produces it, you don't need it from food. Glutamine is one of those non-essential amino acids. So not only do you get enough of it from the protein that you eat throughout the day, but if you need more, your body literally has the opportunity to produce it. Unless you eat zero carbs, which I don't suggest, then you might have an issue. But glutamine can easily be, when you eat carbs, you break it down to glucose, that glucose can be further broken down and then converted into certain amino acids. Those are called glucogenic amino acids, and glutamine is one of those. So you can produce glutamine in the body. So there's literally no reason to supplement with it, because you can produce enough of it. And I guess the same could be said about creatine, because you produce it, but it's not the same mechanisms. And then the other is BCAAs. BCAAs are essential, so you don't produce them in the body. So you do need to get them from outside sources. But if you eat a good balanced protein diet, especially if you are, omnivore, so you eat your meats, you get plenty of protein, you're going to get all those amino acids. So there's no need to further supplement with them. The only time you might need BCAAs is if you are vegan, and you have trouble hitting your protein needs and getting all the amino acids in there. But for the 99% of the population, BCAAs are also just superfluous.
So I think the one thing I heard about glutamine was like, oh, they use this for burn victims, so on and so forth. But I feel like that's a much different dosage in a different way. So once again, good marketing.
Yeah, burn victims have like twice as much protein needs as anyone else. So
okay.
Yeah.
So at that point, when you're in the hospital, the doctor can give it to you, and that's all we need.
It's also in a different form, yeah. So it's it's usually mixed in with something. So yeah.
So and then as far as creatine goes, just because I feel like that one's been around for a fair amount of time, what are your thoughts on creatine?
Yeah, creatine is a very well researched, especially creatine monohydrate. There's in again 99% of the population, there's going to be no side effects to it, no harm from it. As long as you choose a good trusted brand that's tested and all that, you're good. Yeah, it's good because it really helps with power. So it helps with muscle size by storing the water, but it really helps with power and strength. So a lot of athletes will ask me if they should take it. And there's sometimes where I say, no, you don't need it. And that's mainly in like long distance runners that don't lift, because then there's really no need for it. If you lift or if you sprint, because that helps with that push, that's where it's good to take. And it doesn't dehydrate you. It stores more water in the muscles. So you might like maybe feel dehydrated because your blood will feel different, but you don't necessarily need to drink a gallon of water a day because you're on creatine, and it doesn't affect your kidneys or anything like that. But it's very good to take. Like I said, your body does produce some of it, but not enough. And you'd also have to eat like a pound of beef to get like the same amount of creatine in one dose. So it's really hard to get it from food. So that's why supplementing is definitely a good idea.
For sure. So then, as far as what is the reason that it works so well? So you're bringing water into the muscle. Why is that a benefit as far as through output or performance?
So the water in the muscles isn't that is not related to the performance part of it. That's just another aspect. So what happens is there's something in the muscles called creatine phosphate. And anytime you have phosphate, so creatine phosphate, adenosine triphosphate, phosphate is, phosphorus, all the oxygen's connected to stuff. That bond breaks. So it's like chemistry. That bond breaks and the phosphate comes off. And that releases energy. So that's what happens when you have ATP and the creatine phosphate. Now, when you have, if you supplement with creatine, what happens is that you regenerate that creatine phosphate bond more rapidly. So now you have more of it. So you can produce more energy and more strength output. If you don't supplement the creatine, now you just have the free flowing phosphate and free flowing like the byproduct of the creatine. So it's not going to reconnect. So now you have more creatine to connect to the phosphate remnants and then produce more of the ATP, and that so on and so forth. So
if I'm doing bicep curls and my max is like 25 reps or whatever, I guess deadlift would probably be better. Or what would be the best example to where someone that hasn't taken chemistry can understand where the power is coming from? Because I think I can, but I don't think my understanding is as good as yours.
Basically, like, all right, let's say you have an 8-ounce bottle of water. You drink the whole thing.
Got it.
And now you're thirsty, you're out of water. The creatine is basically putting like an extra 2 to 3 ounces of water in there. So now you can drink more water, right?
Okay.
That water is your strength and energy output.
Okay, so your gas tank is just from whatever you have is just a little bit bigger now.
Exactly. Yep.
And then does that itself help with recovery, or since you can push your body more, your body has to recover from that extra output?
It definitely doesn't help with recovery per se. If anything, yeah, your body might have to recover a little bit more from it. But at the same time, it's like you're still not necessarily pushing yourself past the natural output anyway. It's just you're kind of hitting that maximum output, whereas before you were falling short of it in a sense.
Right.
So yeah, you might, again, you don't always get sore from lifting, right? And it's not always soreness is obviously not an indication of a good workout, right? So it's so I wouldn't necessarily say it makes you more sore or anything like that.
Okay. So no, that I like that. Because I thought it was more on the recovery end, but it's more because you can do more, therefore you have a stimulus for growth. Now another part that will upset people, the soreness and improvement. Let's frustrate some people as far as recovery goes.
Yeah, it is frustrating because everyone would be like, and I remember when I started lifting like this too, I'd be like, oh, I'm not sore. Like, did I not work out hard enough yesterday? Or, oh, I'm very sore. Like, that was a good workout. Now I'm going to build a lot of muscle. And the thing is with like muscle, like soreness from lifting, it's the DOMS, or the delayed onset muscle soreness. And there's really, it's still sort of an unexplained phenomenon. And it's different than soreness from running. Soreness from running is just lactic acid, not fully recovered. So the hydrogen atoms are just still flowing, creating that burning sensation, plus the dehydration tightening the muscles. That's it. DOMS, or the soreness from lifting, is not lactic acid. It's calcium buildup, it's other stuff. So it's unexplained. So that's why that soreness doesn't always relate to quality of workout. Typically, if you start a new workout, you're going to feel more sore. And then 4 to 6 weeks into that program, you're not going to feel as sore, but that's actually when you'll probably see the muscle gains, because that's at the point of it. So it's frustrating because it's like, how do you know if you had a good workout or not? But you just have to kind of trust the process, I guess.
So do you, when you're working with people, do you have them more focused on like RPE, or is it sets and percentages? Do you kind of work with that as far as like when a client comes to you like, hey, like, I don't think I'm doing well, what do you kind of prescribe to as far as what their goals should be?
Well, I don't do so much of the workout plans though.
Yeah. Well, so like when they are saying hey, I don't know if I'm working out enough, or I don't know if I'm recovering enough, how do you get into any of that as far as?
Well, I'll look at their progression. So I'll look at like, all right, how are you doing with the workout? So all right, cool, you added 10 pounds to your bench press, or you added 2 reps at this weight. Like, so I'd look at those. And then for my job is to see like, if they're not progressing, if they are progressing and we want to continue that, what to add to their diet. So I look at it from the diet perspective, like, all right, you're not seeing improvements. All right, maybe we have to fix this around with the diet. So I don't really touch the workouts too much.
Right.
If I'm the one that gave them the workout plan, then I will go into it a little bit more, but a lot of times they're working with the strength coach on that part. But yeah, so I'll look at the diet, because that's what I notice a lot with athletes, is that a lot of them have good workout plans and the structure is there, but they're not seeing improvements. And then all of a sudden they work with me. And then when we have that 2-week follow-up, they're like, oh yeah, like I added 20, 30 pounds to my squat, or I set a PR here and there. And it's like, yeah, because you had all the right tools. Your workouts were right on point, but you weren't giving yourself the right fuel. So you weren't hitting your maximal potential. You thought you were, because you don't know what your best is. And the thing with athletes is your potential is so high. It's better than most people. So that's where nutrition comes in. And then all of a sudden, like, wow, like I was not lifting how I should have been. Like, I'm actually at my full capacity now. I'm like,
for sure,
that's the magic of nutrition.
I'll definitely throw my now buddy under the bus. When he started working with me, I think he was hitting around 3,000 calories a day, and he was like, yeah, it's a lot. And we were going up like 250, 500 calories a week, and we got him to about 4,000, 4,200, and then he budged like maybe half a pound. But he was doing like 4 or 5 hour workouts. He went and ran a marathon the other day. Like, he's more of an endurance athlete, but he'll do a Metcon for like an hour and a half. So a lot of people don't think that they need to eat as much as they do for when they're working out.
Oh my God, yeah. But everyone, yeah, I get that all the time. Be like, I'll get DMs and then be like, oh, hey, like I'm really trying to gain weight. Like I feel like I eat a lot, but I just can't gain weight. And a lot of times, if they don't sign up for a program or like go on and talk further, then I can't really get into it. But a lot of times what I'll see is that they're not eating a lot. They're eating a lot of filling foods because they'll be like, oh, like I try to eat clean and eat healthy. I'm like, well, that's probably your problem is that you're only eating clean and healthy and you're not getting the calories in. You can feel if you're filling up half your plate with protein and then vegetables and then some carbs, you're gonna feel stuffed. So you feel like you're eating a lot, but you're maybe getting 2,500 calories. And I actually had a post last week where I talked about this. Yeah, and that's the biggest issue is that you're not eating a lot. You're just eating a lot of volume foods.
Right.
And there's a big difference.
Well, and I think being an athlete and being a just 40-hour work in an office, like your requirements are a lot different. So like if you look at the Tour de France or anybody doing endurance stuff, they're just trying to eat as much as they possibly can, because if they're eating just all chicken breasts, like their GI tract is going to say, no, thank you. We're done.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, kind of to backtrack a little bit more. You're finishing up college. You take off the frat party to pass your classes. Where are you applying to get into this? It's not an internship. It's for after college.
So it's called the dietetic internship. It's just that I always have to, I always explain it differently because like people think like, oh, an internship, you're just working a job with someone or something like that. But like, so I explained it's called dietetic internship, but it's basically like residency for a doctor. Like, so you have different rotations. So there's clinicals where you shadow dietitians in the hospital and you learn how to treat patients with heart disease, diabetes, renal, cancer, like all that stuff. And then there's like community. So like maybe they're working with WIC or stuff like that, then food service and then electives. So different rotations. And the way it works is there's a central application for that. So you fill out, there's like an essay you put in your grades and all that. And then there's supplemental applications for each program where either they want like another transcript or they want a separate essay or references, or maybe they'll do interviews, stuff like that. So you apply, and then I think you're going to apply to like 30 or something, but that's kind of excessive. Wow. And then you apply, and then no one does that because it's also like $50. It's like,
oh man.
Well, also the price went up. The price has probably gone up because it's been 6 years now. But yeah, it was like you paid a set price for the central, and then like it was like 50 or something per supplemental. So people try to limit it, but so I think I applied to 4 or 5, and then you rank them, and then they don't see your rankings, and then when they get all their applicants, they rank every applicant in order. So like if they got 100 applicants, they rank 1 through 100. Or if they really don't want someone, they might just not include them on there. And then the computer like mixes them together so that basically it's the best of everything. So like, let's say you're like number 1 on someone's list, but they're number 3 on yours. And then you're number 1, you're like 10 on theirs, but you get matched. Like you'll get your best option basically.
Right.
So in this way, what's good about it is because it's like very competitive, but not as big of a thing as like med schools, there's no like choices after it. So it's not like, oh, I got into this program and this program. Oh, and then I got waitlisted from this one to C. It's no, like you only get into one program or nothing. So so basically
like a good move.
Right. So it's good for the programs too, because like if they have 8 spots, because it's limited spots. So if they have 8 spots and they match with 8 people, like they know all 8 of those people are accepting because they have no other choice unless they just skip it off for that year.
Right.
But no one's going to do that, obviously.
Yeah. So where did you end up going?
So I ended up at Virginia Tech, and then Virginia Tech has 2 locations. There's Northern Virginia, which is like Falls Church. So it's about 30 minutes west of DC. And then they have their main one in Blacksburg. And it was actually 2 different applications. So like when you apply, you either apply to Virginia Tech Blacksburg or Virginia Tech Northern Virginia. And you could apply to both if you wanted, I believe. But yeah, so I did that because I was at University of Maryland. So I wanted to stay in the DC area. My sister lived in Virginia in that area too. So it'd be nice to be near her. So she was the first person I told when I got matched because it was like, I'm like, all right, if I get matched somewhere else, I'm gonna obviously call my mom first. But if it's the one in Virginia, I'm calling my sister first because she's gonna be the most excited.
Yeah.
She was very happy. Yes. But yeah, it's a nerve-wracking process because you submit it on So it was mid-February. So it was actually Valentine's Day that year. And then there's match day, which is like 6 or 7 p.m. on a Sunday in April. So it's 6 weeks. It's
That's
just
a
6 weeks
long
of
time.
waiting. 6 weeks of waiting, 24 hours of waiting, 12 hours of long day. My heart is pounding as I'm refreshing the page. And then it's just like all of a sudden it says, congratulations, you matched to Virginia Tech, Northern Virginia. Like, it's like exhilarating. Like, I was confident because like I said, it's like a 46% match rate nationwide.
Yeah.
But with University of Maryland, they typically have like anywhere from 70 to 80% of their students that apply get matched. Part of that is because it's a very rigorous program. It's very science-based. So like we took a little bit more chemistry and bio classes than other programs. So it's kind of like, and other programs knew that. So they knew like, all right, if you're able to get through this, like you're great. Your GPA here is better than maybe GPA there. And also our advisor was very realistic with people and saying like, maybe you should wait till next year to apply. So that part as well kind of played into it. So, but they would also at the same time, they wouldn't say, no, you shouldn't apply at all. Like they would just kind of recommend one path or another. But yeah, like I knew I was nervous, but I was also fairly confident that I would get into at least one of the programs. I might've had like a safety in there. I forget. But I got my number one, which was perfect. And it's.
So what were you doing through those 6 weeks? Are you working or are you just sweating, just trying to wait? Hopefully you're getting in.
So it's still, you still have college, right? So
okay.
Yeah, because it's still a spring semester of my senior year. Yeah, I guess I didn't specify that part. Yeah, this is spring semester of senior year that you do.
Okay, so you're not just for 6 weeks just hanging out, just hoping that you get into this.
No. Yeah, it's still the middle semester, so I still have classes. My senior year schedule was actually pretty nice. My final semester, because I only had to take 10 credits, so I had classes 2 days a week. So I had class Monday, Wednesday, and then I did internships like a USDA and then this other place like on Tuesday, Thursdays all day, and then had a 3-day weekend. So it was pretty nice.
What was it like working for the USDA?
It was cool. I wasn't like on a farm. I was in an office, but I did a lot of stuff with like food surveys and like just compiling data and like fixing questions and stuff like that. It was a lot of busy work and like Excel spreadsheets and stuff, but still a cool experience. And that also obviously looked good on the resume, which is the main thing.
So what is something that people would not expect out of the USDA, or what's something that would usually shocks people when you talk to them about that job?
I guess telling them that, like I wasn't working on a farm or like inspecting food. I was just doing Excel spreadsheets. That's probably the biggest shock involved.
Mm-hmm. So of doing those spreadsheets, was it of infected animals? Like what kind of numbers were you running that you didn't talk about?
So are you familiar with NHANES, the survey?
No.
All right, most people are not. So there's something called NHANES. It's a survey. I think they do it every other year. And basically it's basically how they gather data. When they say like, 80% of Americans don't get enough of this nutrient, right?
Got it.
They get that data from this survey. Mm-hmm. And basically what the survey does is like they call around people or selected group, and they basically do food logs of them and then ask questions, and then through a computer system so it's accurate. And then they compile the data from there. So my job was I had a couple jobs. One is to go through those questions and make sure that like the choices matched up right, the questions made sense, there's no errors there. And then also combing through certain data and like grouping and stuff like that to make sure that like when they collected the data, that it would be useful and like not have errors in it.
Right. So when it says 80%, or just that whatever random number, like I generally don't believe pollsters, just because like how many people are you asking for like these questions? Is it 100,000 people? Is it thousands? Like, do you know?
It's got to be millions. No.
Oh, okay.
Millions. Yeah, it's a selection. I think they do random selection of the way they do it. So it's not like they're just going to go to like inner cities and survey, right? Because they want to make sure that like it's accurate, right? So they do disperse it throughout the population, and they get a bunch of demographic info. So they get gender, they get age, they get ethnicity. I think they get income level. I forget if they did that or maybe they added it in. So that's why like they can get like, this amount of people below the poverty line don't get enough of this nutrient. Like, so all that stuff, and there's different departments within the USDA. So they share that data with the other departments to produce the outreach. Like, so I'm not 100% sure if this is true, but like, I imagine like when they switch from the pyramid to like the my plate and decided on that, like they probably use data from NHANES to determine like, all right, this is what we have to point out to people, and like,
Right.
oh, like not enough people are getting calcium. Let's make sure we emphasize the dairy intake and things
For sure.
like that. So, yeah.
So for people that don't know, I'm going to try to explain what I know, and then I'll let you correct me. So the food pyramid originally was due to there was famine, and that was there to get calories in for people, since like food was not just as readily as available as it is now. So I think a lot of people used to make fun of it, but when it was kind of put in place, it was there not necessarily to get the most micronutrients, but just to make sure people weren't starving. Is that kind of what that is that kind of on the right track?
I'm not sure. I've never heard like the exact reasoning for it. I think it was more so just to promote healthy eating, because when you look at the food pyramid, it's like grains are at the bottom because those make up a lot of your diet, and it's right the exact order. You have meat, dairy, and then you have sweets at the top, right? So it's a small bit of it. So like they can fit into your diet, but they shouldn't make up a big part of your diet.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to show like a hierarchy of like what a majority of your diet should be and working up through that. But again, yeah, it wasn't, again, people didn't understand it. They didn't see what it meant. So then they tried the My Pyramid, which didn't last very long because it was still kind of the same thing. So that's why I switched to My Plate, which I found very useful.
Yeah.
Quarter of your plate is protein. Well, it's useful in the general population. Quarter protein, quarter carbs, fruits and vegetables. For athletes, we switch it up. So there's the athlete's plate, which is built off that. Because a quarter plate of carbs is not going to be enough for most athletes, so we switch it up. But yeah.
So when most people deal with carbs, what does a quarter plate look like? And I guess that's not a terrible question. So let people know why carbs are more important, I guess, to athletes than the average bear.
Yeah. So carbs are your energy source, right? It's the fuel, the gas you put in your car, right? If you're very active, you're burning a lot of calories, you're burning a lot of carbs, especially at higher intensities, you burn more carbs than fat. You burn fat at lower intensities, and if you don't have enough of energy stored up, then you can start to burn through protein, which is not good because then you're losing muscle. So carbs are the energy source. They're also the least filling. So we talked about this earlier. Fats, protein, fiber, those are all very filling. So if you focus too much on those, then you're not going to hit your calorie needs in general. So carbs are an easy way to hit that 4,000 calories a day.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So we're going to Virginia. So is it the college or is it a hospital out there that you're interning at, or what did that look like?
So yeah, that's a good question, because every program is a little bit different. Some programs are like directly through a college and like that college hospital. So like Johns Hopkins had an internship program, for example. So like everything is done through their hospital.
Got it.
And so far with this one, because especially with the Northern Virginia campus, it was just like the Virginia Tech Northern campus is just like a grad school with like one building. So we had like class days once a week where we met there, but everything else was different sites, which is a lot of work for our director to set it up. So there's a bunch of different hospitals in the area. And that was actually one unique thing too, is that with the 8 or 9 people in our class, we were all at different hospitals. Whereas a program like Hopkins or Maryland and stuff like that, they're all at the same hospital and they rotate the things.
Okay.
So that was interesting. So so I got set up in a hospital that was pretty close by. And then different, like I worked with community service, a food service place local, like other dietitians local. So it's a lot of, for mine, it was a lot of things that got set up, but yeah, you're in different locations. Like, so 4 days a week, you're essentially working that 9 to 5 or whatever hours it is.
Yeah.
Shadowing a dietitian.
So from just based off my own experience, when you go into a hospital or you see the food that they're giving, it's usually like a piece of bread, like in a plastic bag or whatever wrapper, and then like the veggies are as small as can be, and it looked like they were just warmed up in the microwave. What do you see when you're in like a hospital and that kind of cafeteria area?
Well, every hospital is different. I mean, I thought the foods were okay portion wise. They also don't have much appetites. Actually, one of my in college, I volunteered at a hospital, so that's a really important thing for dietetics majors, to get volunteer experience in a hospital before you apply. So I did that. And two of my jobs were to do food surveys. So I go around to the patient floors and go in and fill out a survey for me, basically asking what do you think? Basically, what do you think about the food? Like, portion is good, options okay. Was it hot when you got up? Was it cold? Like things like that to make sure that the food service is handling it right.
Right.
And then I would do audits too. Like I would randomly, right before lunchtime, I'd go, like the food would be on the cart ready to go up already. And I'd go and like randomly select a few trays and check the meal ticket to make sure that everything was on it, right? Like, did they do the right potatoes? Did they miss anything, stuff like that? And then one time I did a taste test too, like to make sure the food was good, the portions were good, like this is what all that. So I find that the hospital food, most hospitals I've seen at least, isn't too bad. You know, the hospital food's never the greatest, right? You're not getting gourmet chefs there, obviously.
Right.
And you don't go to a hospital or choose a hospital because of the food.
Yeah.
So
the Friday night we're not having at the cafeteria at the hospital.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I thought it was, for the most part, it's fine for what it was. You know, a lot of times, especially surgical or anything like that, like they're not eating much to begin with. So it's, portion sizes are never an issue.
Okay. So do you think that since they're not in there for such a long time, like the quality isn't as important? Or do you think that like if they improved that at all, it would help the overall health, or it's just not that big a percentage change?
I mean, quality obviously would help, but I don't think I think it's just there's so many other factors in there, and as long as they're getting food, like the food is still healthy for the most part. You know, sometimes they have butter or burger or stuff like that, but like if you're on a heart disease diet, then you wouldn't be able to choose that anyway. So I think it was fine. Yeah, I think it's more so making sure it's something that they could eat. Like if it tastes better, maybe they would eat more, so that would help. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're working at a hospital. Was there anything? So at the internship, was there anything in particular like, hey, I really want to go into this field for dietetics, or was it just kind of overall experience?
Well, the hospital was already when I was in my internship.
Okay, so so you were doing the intern at college, and then
right, but that was senior year, so like I already knew like
so what was there a specific wing or department that you were working for at the hospital that you enjoyed?
Like when I was volunteering or when I was in my internship?
And the internship, sorry.
Okay. During the dietetic internship, well, no, you have to go through all the wings. That's the point of it.
Oh, okay.
So you get all the experience. So there was the telemetry, which is like, so that's heart disease. So like if they're hooked up to a heart monitor, there's ICU, there's the oncology, the cancer, diabetes. No, diabetes is an outpatient for me. And then same thing with renal is outpatient. And then there's like there's general like med surge, which is someone that has some kind of surgery or any general thing that they got admitted for. It was very different. I liked and disliked ICU. What was good about ICU is like, it was a lot of math, which obviously, you know, enjoy math and I'm good at that because it's a lot of tube feeding or TPN, which is like you're just straight through an IV. And you have to calculate everything for them, and they put a formula in, which is cool because you know exactly how much they're eating every day because you're calculating it for them. So that's cool. So you can control that. But at the same time, it's like they're all intubated. You don't talk to anyone. So you're literally like helping these patients out, doing everything for them, but you don't know who they are because you never get to talk to them. And it's kind of like a weird feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with those numbers and equations that you're getting, can they ever be wrong? So, like if the person has a different, not necessarily an allergy, but like humans are different, is there a kind of a leeway that you have to be aware of or things you have to check for? Or
it can be wrong because again, we're using the MSJ equation, like the same equations that, you know, bodybuilders and other lifters do to calculate their calorie needs. And based on body fat percentage and stuff like that, it can be off by a little bit. But that's why with ICU, you check you check in on them every day. So you monitor their weight. So if they're not gaining weight or if they're losing weight, whatever it is, then you adjust the formula accordingly. So you fix that. So it does, there obviously is error in there, but it comes out pretty close. And then there's different formulas based on allergies and protein needs and all that kind of stuff. For sure. And then, so that was like, oncology was sad because like, I mean, just sad, obviously with cancer patients, they're struggling, things like that. And especially if they're in the hospital as a cancer patient, that means they're like really struggling with something because it came to that point. And then I would say like med surge was good because that was probably my favorite because it was a lot of variety and they were usually more awake. But like you would get someone that came in, you know, maybe they just had like a hip surgery or something like that, or a lot of it was GI surgeries that I dealt with and things like that. So there's a lot more variety on that unit.
And then how did the staff and or doctors receive you as a professional? Because if you're not doing your job correctly, like that does harm the person, but did they kind of respect you with what you guys were doing?
Yeah, they respected us, and especially it depends on the state, but a lot of hospitals, like the dietitian can't really officially like put anything through. Like I can prescribe the tube feeding formula and all that and the numbers and all that, but then the doctor will have to write off on it and then the nurse administers it. So the nurse can double check too as
Okay.
well. And that happens with medicines too. With doctors, the nurse always checks it because I heard stories where doctor write the wrong number because they're rushed, and the nurse will
Whoops.
be like, "No, that doesn't seem like the right dose." They'll double check with the doctor, and like the nurse saves the guy's life basically. But yeah, so but there's a lot of trust because also as a dietetics internship, as a dietetic intern particularly, if I'm writing any formulas in that, if I'm doing it on my own, my preceptor, which is one of the dietitians at the hospital,
Yeah.
they have to sign off on my note anyway because I can't legally sign off because I'm not a
Right.
dietitian. So
Yeah.
they review it and make sure everything's accurate. So there's a lot of trust there, and yeah, there's because of that, like I couldn't just give someone a supplement; like the doctor had to approve it and things like that. So,
Right.
But they trusted what we did. They knew like that we were good. They trusted the dietitians that were there, so that's how they knew to trust me.
So obviously, dietitian, you know, eating healthy and working out a decent amount. What is did any of the nurses or doctors come to you and be like, hey, like I'm trying to be healthier. What can I do? Did that ever happen?
I think like once in a while maybe, or maybe like in a joking manner, but no, not really. They kind of like knew at that point like not to bother us, or like they would have asked like one of the other dietitians at some point already. So I don't think I really got that.
Okay. Did you see? Because I have a fair amount of friends that are nurses. Their like waiting area where it's kind of like a lot of food, a lot of snacks. Did you ever see anything? Because I feel like they don't necessarily provide their staff with the best option as far as food goes. It seems like a lot of snacks.
I don't think I really ever saw that either, honestly. Again, the hospital I did this at was a small hospital too. It was like 200 beds, so it wasn't as big of a thing. So, like maybe like once in a while they had like donuts or something like there, but like it wasn't like a big like. Didn't always have like a snack laying around. Yeah.
That's nice to see.
Yeah.
So after we're done with that, what's kind of our next move?
So after the clinical part, or
yeah, as far as the clinical part
after the
goes.
clinical, I did community. So I did 2 rotations there. I did a corporate wellness, which was pretty cool. So so I did that for a month, which was actually really cool. So corporate wellness is when like a large company will have like dietitians or coaches stuff like that come in, and there's different ways to go about it. They can do nutrition presentations. They can do one-on-one counseling with each employee. A lot of times it goes through the insurance as well. So it doesn't cost the company anything,
Nice.
but it actually helps lower the insurance cost, because what happens is if your employees have healthier lifestyles, they miss less, they have fewer missed days from illness or doctor's appointments, and overall work productivity is better. So it actually helps the company a lot as well. So it's a lot of that, and working the one-on-one presentations and things like that from a corporate level, which is cool. And then I did my second part of that community was a split between I did a private practice with this one dietitian, and then I did cardiac outpatient, which even though it was clinical based, it was allowed to be part of my community rotation, which is one of the cool parts about the program I did, was that there's a lot more flexibility with it. So I did that, which was kind of cool. And then there's food service, where I was at a central kitchen for like DC public schools. So it's basically like where all the recipes come from, and like all the a lot of the DC schools, since they have smaller kitchens, a lot of the food will be prepped at this big kitchen and then sent to the schools for the final like small prep or something like that. So I was seeing the behind the scenes of that, which is pretty cool. But it was kind of, no one likes the food service rotation. It's usually the least favorite rotation, unless that's what you want to do.
Right, for sure.
And then after that was elective. So that elective was cool. It's 2 weeks. I spent 1 week shadowing the dietitian for George Washington University, but she's only part-time. So I spent a little bit shadowing her at the school, and then a little bit with her private practice. And then the second week was with another private practice dietitian, because I knew that eventually I wanted to go into a private practice like this.
Got it. So as far as the corporate wellness goes, was there anything that you just saw consistently that was benefiting people, or through the talks, people come up to you like, hey, yeah, like I'm going to do this, or what'd you kind of run into there?
So I wasn't really involved in a lot of the talks because then again, the
Okay.
dietitians that worked there were doing those calls. I got to sit in on a couple and I didn't notice much, but I did a lot of the behind the scenes, like helping them write blogs and stuff like that. So like how to reduce stress or reduce stress eating, working on like videos and things like educational videos on that. So like helping them out with stuff, but like I didn't really get to see the client calls themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So as far as the private practice then goes, obviously they know exactly kind of what to be suggesting, prescriptions and all that stuff. What did the people that you're shadowing, what did they say, or what did they do when they had a client that wasn't doing what they said, or did that not happen much?
No, it definitely happens where the client doesn't do everything they say, and I experience that as well because either you give them too much or it's just they have other stuff going on. And basically the biggest thing is to not put them down or not make them feel bad for not getting it. Like
Right.
the first instinct is to be like, why didn't you do that? Like you got to be better, but that's not going to help anyone. So it's more just like focusing on the why. So like I learned a lot of strategies on like how to pull from them and like why they didn't get to hit those goals, and then restructuring it so that they can do a better job with it without making them feel like bad about it.
For sure. With just people that are doing well or not doing well, do you see any kind of foundational habits or things that people do when you get a client, you're like, oh, this is probably going to go well? Or is it like, oh, hey, we're going to have to kind of work on these things first? Or is it more on a case-by-case basis?
A lot of it's case by case, but sometimes in the beginning I can tell whether so for a lot of clients I talk to them a little bit before we sign up. So if they message me on Instagram or email, or if we have a consult call first, and I can kind of tell just like the way they message me. I could sometimes tell if they're a little all over the place or if they're more straightforward. If they calorie track beforehand and they do a lot of meal prep, then I know it's gonna go smooth. But again, I don't require that; it's not necessary.
Right.
But sometimes I can tell it's like, all right, this will be pretty straightforward. It also depends on the sport. Like I know that if I have a tennis player, for example, or tennis or gymnastics, their plan and their sessions are going to be a little more, I won't say erratic, but it's not going to be as straight cut. And I'm totally fine with that. I love working with them, but I know because they work out like crazy, they have complex schedules. So I know it's not going to be like a simple, like, this is how I eat, meal, snacks, all that. Like it's going to be a lot of little things to work on. So I know that going into the session, so it makes it easier to prepare for it as well.
For sure. So the kind of hierarchy of things that I work with my clients is usually focus on like nutrition quality, because if they're eating garbage kind of right out of the gate, it's going to be kind of hard to hit your macros because you might be able to hit them, but then you might not be full or the other direction. Do you take them through like a step-by-step process? Do you go macros right away? What's kind of your blueprint without, I guess, giving too much away?
So I'll calculate my clients' calories and macros for them, but I don't always really, and I'll give them to them, but I don't necessarily talk about them too much because I don't, especially with the one, if it's a straightforward meal plan, because I have different programs. So if I just do the custom meal plan, then the macros are on, so are all the foods to hit those macros. So I do all that for them. But then there's less flexibility. With the nutrition coaching, we take more of that intuitive approach. So I say, all right, this is how many calories you need. These are the macros. If they're tracking beforehand, then I can pull from there and be like, all right, here's how to adjust it a little bit. If they weren't tracking, no worries, because I can look at how they're eating and get a good estimate of how many calories they have and what to add from there. So I use it as a guideline for myself, really. But the idea is that it's hard to track, especially most of my clients are in high school or college. They're athletes, so they're very busy. They don't have time to weigh and measure everything, or they can't weigh and measure everything. And they don't have time to put it into MyFitnessPal every day and track it and then analyze it. It's very stressful too. So I try to stay away from that as best as possible. So I use that intuitive approach, and because it doesn't have to be perfect, because you make the adjustments from there, which is a big part. Yeah.
So as far as the intuitive approach, I think people that look at it from the outside and like, oh, I just use my intuition and I can just eat what I want. Like I'm doing what I think I should be doing. What's the realistic approach when you say intuitive eating?
So So I like to say intuitive approach, because intuitive eating is actually like another thing that's more like disordered eating dietitians work with that.
Okay.
So I call it an intuitive approach, because it's not true
Okay.
intuitive eating. But
Got
basically
it.
what I mean is, like you're using your intuition, but the lay person is not going to be able to use their intuition and be like, all right, I'm eating 3,000 calories just by this. Like, you work up to it. Like, I can do it because, again, I use track calories. I'm also a dietitian. Like, this is what I do, right?
Much
like, same
easier.
with, like, my dad can probably estimate how much taxes he needs to pay this year before actually like looking at it, right?
Right.
Like, it's the same way. So the idea is, when I work with my clients, we get, this is how much they eat, and they focus on the portion sizes, the plates. Like, they take pictures of their food and send it to me, and we work through that. And eventually you get to realize, like, all right, this is what my meal should look like, which makes it good for restaurants too, because you know that, all right, when I go to a restaurant, like, all right, make sure I include these components, and like, this is a rough size and all that, and things like, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's you can't really go into intuitive right away.
Right.
You can, if you track your calories and all that, and you pay attention to what your portions look like when you track, then you can definitely switch into an intuitive approach. But it's kind of a long process. But it definitely is ideal, because, again, like, I got this. So I did my meal prep yesterday, actually, and then I did like the sticker Q&A on Instagram, and some of the questions I got were like, how do you measure everything out to make sure it hits your macro and calorie goals, or like, how do you do this with calorie tracking? And basically the way I explained it was, I don't track my calories anymore. I haven't for several years, or I never really did it consistently anyway. But I know, like, what my portions should look like based on how my energy is, what I need to do. And then I know if I'm hungry, how to fix it the rest of the day, right? And that's me, because I know what it should look like, and that's what I try to get to with my clients as well.
Right. For sure. So what is your, I guess, fitness and nutrition regimen at the moment? Like, what are your goals, and then what are you doing to kind of reach them?
Yeah, so I mean, my goals are kind of straightforward. Like, I mean, if I could, obviously I want to get like bigger and get stronger and stuff like that, but it's not like something I'm stressing over. Like, if it doesn't happen, I'm okay with where I am, and that's important to know. Like, I'll get pointed out on TikTok and be like, you're not jacked, like, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, like, one, I mean, I haven't gone to an actual gym since March, because when they reopened, I decided I just didn't know if it was safe. I didn't want to risk it.
Yeah.
I have dumbbells and bands at home that I use. So It's good for maintaining muscle and just keeping my health up, but it's not great for bulking per se. But yeah, so I'm good with that. And, I'm comfortable with it. Like, there's no reason for me to be bulky. That's the thing. And getting back to that question in the beginning, was I lifting for performance or aesthetics? Like, now, yeah, I lift for health and maybe aesthetics, but the aesthetics part at this point isn't as big of a deal for me. I'm in like the 150s, maybe close to 160. Like, I'm okay with where I'm at. I'm not like 120 anymore. Like, that's the important part for me. So I just want to stay healthy, stay strong. Like, one of the things was, like, that back, the stress fracture I had on my back, right? That back pain lingered with me forever, and it still does. And I finally started seeing a chiropractor last year. And one big thing for me was like always lifting heavy furniture and stuff like that. So I moved into my apartment this year, carrying couches, putting furniture together, all that. And afterward, like, after moving all the heavy stuff, like, my back didn't hurt. And a lot of that is from working with the chiropractor for the past year.
That's awesome.
But combined with, lifting and keeping my back healthy through lifting. So that's the important start, right? I'm 29. I'm not playing competitive sports. I'm not doing bodybuilding competitions. I'm looking forward to the future. Like I talked about, I want to make sure when I'm 50, 60 years old and I have kids and I have grandkids, like, I'm in good enough shape that I can play with them and help them move and stuff like that.
Right.
And if that means,
don't need that 12 pack.
Right. If that means just doing maintenance lifts now instead of like pushing myself, then that's what it is, because that's what I'm comfortable with. So that's my training regimen. And then, yeah, nutrition is to maintain, maybe put on a little bit of muscle with that. But again, I don't need to, jack up to put on 20 pounds of muscle.
Yeah. So when you're kind of eyeballing for putting on just a little bit of muscle, if you were to guess, what is your kind of protein look like as far as to your body weight and stuff like that?
Yeah. So my protein will probably be anywhere from, I mean, I could probably do with only like 140, but I don't always do a great job of distributing throughout the day as well. Like, I'll do more at meals. Yeah. So I try usually around 150 to 160, but like, when I used to track it, I would realize like I was at like 180 or something. I'm like, wow, this is a lot. So I usually, so I try to keep that down a little bit so I can have room for the other food, but it's probably higher than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But it's okay because I'm still able to eat the other stuff.
Right. So do you focus on micronutrients much at all, or you're just kind of eating the rainbow?
Eating the rainbow. Yeah. Yeah. I don't count. Yeah. The only way to count micronutrients is if you logged it. And then you'd have to usually pay for the premium version to get all the micronutrients. So I eat that's a good term actually. I don't really use that one a lot, but yeah, I eat the rainbow. And that's why like my meal prep, again, the sticker questions I got, like, don't you get sick of eating the same thing every day, or isn't it good to have variety? But like when I did my meal prep yesterday, I cooked 19 meals. There was 3 different proteins, 3 different starches, and then 5 different vegetables.
19 meals, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it took like 4 hours to do it, but there's variety in there. So I'm getting different vegetables every day, getting different colors, eating fruits. Yeah. So I know that by eating the right portion size of vegetables, so about a cup or so each meal, and getting different colors, I'm getting all my micronutrient needs. So I don't need to count them in particular.
Right, for sure. No, so with that being said, do you have those 19 meals? Is that like, oh, I have this rotation for this week, and then I do 19 meals different next week, or how do you figure out what those meals are going to look like week to week?
So my meal prep is very unorthodox. So I just started doing these like mass meal prep. Well, I started doing meal preps like that about like last year. So living with my parents for when I started my business to like save up, and I would just do the mass meal preps for lunch, because then every night I cooked dinner because I was cooking for them.
Right.
So like I couldn't meal prep that. So I did like 20 lunches at a time, but it was only like 2 meats, 2 starches, 2 vegetables. It was very simple.
Yeah.
Then when I moved into my apartment in August, that's when I started doing this mass meal prep. So like one point I did like 35 or 40 meals at once, and that took like all day. Yeah. Because I do it for lunches and dinners. So I do that. And then what I try to do is I'll do some kind of mass meal prep or mini mass like this. And then once a week or so, I'll cook dinner again. Like if I don't have a late client, that's wrong. I have a lot of late clients because I work with kids.
Yeah.
So I don't have time to make dinner. So if I don't have a late client, and I'll make dinner that night. It's like I might make like chicken stir fry this week, right? So I'll make like 4 servings of that, eat 1 that night, and now I add 3 to the rotation. And then next week I'll cook again. I'll make 4 or 5 meals. Like, so eventually as I kind of go through these 19 meals, I'll add to it. So it kind of like, these will be like, this will be technically 10 days worth of meals, but it'll last me maybe a month or so till I do the mass meal prep.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's very unorthodox. It's not the same. Like, I did the last mass meal prep maybe 2 months ago because I did a lot of mini ones throughout the last month.
Okay, very cool.
So it really depends on what my schedule looks like and how I feel. But
I like that for sure.
Yeah, no, it makes it fun. Yeah, for
sure. So as far as starting your business, how did you know that you wanted to go sports wise?
I mean, that was always the goal. Like when I chose nutrition, that was always the goal, was to get into sports nutrition.
Oh, day one, had it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Like told you about my childhood, right?
Yeah.
I literally I just never honestly could imagine not doing sports. So I worked, my first job as a dietitian was clinical based actually. So I didn't work for sports for a while, but I saw some clients on the side. And then eventually I finally broke into the sports nutrition world. I did some internships, moved around the country. So had a summer internship with IMG Academy in Florida. Then I did an internship with University of Georgia for a year.
What's IMG?
IMG Academy is a boarding high school in Bradenton, Florida. So they're really known for their football and basketball, but they have all sports, and then they have camps all year round for athletes, like all around the world come. So my job was to do nutrition presentations to those campers.
That's super cool.
So I did that. Then I was at Georgia for a year where I worked with tennis and softball. Then I was at Duke for 4 months working with the men's soccer team there. And then when that finished, the working at the college level is fun, but it also is not. It's not meant for long term. That's why there's a lot of turnover in there. It's just the pay is not great, but that wasn't always the biggest concern to me. It was more so like, it's very unorthodox hours. You're moving around a lot. You don't always get the recognition and respect. There's a lot of like busy work that's not nutrition related, which was kind of annoying. So like, I saw some other jobs. I did apply for some like jobs with like baseball and soccer and stuff like that, but I didn't get any of those. Nothing really stood out. So I'm like, all right. My goal was always to start a private practice. I thought it'd be a little bit later in life, but I'm like, all right, let's do it now.
Let's go.
So I got into that. And when I started the private practice, I was a little lost. And I wasn't really focusing on sports first, really. So now my company name is Full Circle Sports Nutrition, but it started out as Full Circle Nutrition and Fitness. And I was gearing more towards adults because I knew like I had connections to the adult world and things like that. And I did try to work with athletes as well, but I marketed it very broadly. And then eventually I decided, you know what, like I need to narrow this down. I need to have a niche. Let's do sports. And it it kind of hurt me. It kind of didn't hurt me. Like I think having that niche sports focus helped with my marketing because all my posts and stuff like that were for athletes. Like
Right.
there's very few sports dietitians working with young athletes in a private setting. So like that helped me narrow the focus. And I still do work with adult clients, but there have been cases where I think, someone will reach out to me, they'll look at my website and see that it's geared towards athletes, and they think like, oh, he doesn't work with adults. So I am working on that to have another page on my website so they understand that I do work with adults. But
Yeah.
it's frustrating because with this population, they don't understand how business works. So it's like a lot of times they think things are free, or they don't understand things cost money, or they ask their parents and all that kind of stuff. So it's like that's the thing is like when I work with a high school athlete, I have to make 2 sales for 1 client because I have
Right.
the kid and the parent usually.
Yeah. Well,
So
usually for me, I have to make the sale to the wife and then the husband afterwards.
I guess, yeah, that works too, I guess, yeah. So it's kind of similar. But it's like, so that part's frustrating, but the working itself is so rewarding. Like, it's what I love to do. Like, there's
Oh, I
so
bet.
much unique science to it that people don't realize. Like, that's the thing. A lot of kids think like, oh, I shouldn't have to pay for this. I can just get it off YouTube. And then the ones that work with me realize that like, yeah, this stuff's not on YouTube. This stuff's not on Google. Like,
Right.
you're not getting a customized plan the day you have a tournament this weekend. You're not getting that plan at Friday night at 8 o'clock saying exactly what and when to eat for your game that day. Like, you're not getting that.
Yeah.
And then I'll get DMs and comments like that, like, hey, I have a tournament tomorrow. What should I eat? I'm like, yeah, I'm not answering that if you're in a client because there's a lot. One, I need more information too, so I can't give you a good answer anyway. But yeah, so it's just so rewarding to see the results that they get from it and just putting the science into work.
Oh, absolutely. So I think a lot of people will get like a macro calculator and be like, hey, those generally are decent, but nutrient timing is a huge portion. So how do you kind of get that across to your clients?
I mean, I emphasize the one big thing I always emphasize is that adult nutrition or general nutrition doesn't apply to you. And that's the thing. Like, they'll be like, oh, I heard, sugar is bad for you. But I'll be like, all right, it's bad for adults because it leads to excess calories. You need a lot of calories. That sugar will be okay for you. It's not good for you, but it's okay for you. It actually might help. So the biggest thing is, and I'll get questions like that too. Like, if I'm in a calorie deficit, do my carbs matter, or is it just protein and total calories? And I'll say, are you an athlete? And if they say no, then I'm like, no, your carb total doesn't really matter that much. Like, as long as you're in calorie deficit, you hit your protein targets and you have some carbs and fat, you're fine. Yeah. But if you're an athlete, it does matter because if you're trying to lose weight, you still need a good amount of carbs for your energy. So
people are going to be very confused about that.
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, you still have to have carbs. You can't go keto. You can't do that. But the timing too, and especially like, because there's one big thing, like that whole anabolic window, it's a myth, and it is to an extent for muscle growth. But as an athlete, if you have 2 workouts in a day, it's not the anabolic window, it's the recovery window. So you still need to eat right away. Yeah. So there's a lot of things on there that you will see and be like, oh, okay, like that's great. And if you're just looking to put on muscle, great, yeah, that'll help. But you can put on muscle and also become a worse athlete at the same time. Like, when I put on all that muscle in high school, I actually got a little bit slower, not significantly, but like it did slow me down a little bit.
Well, the training you were doing was not necessarily sports specific. It wasn't you were doing sprint training. You weren't doing quarter squats or specific stuff. It was,
and I was doing a lot of protein too, and that was the issue. I wasn't doing sports nutrition training or sports performance training, not doing the right nutrition, all that kind of stuff. So you can gain, like, I'll be like, oh yeah, like I gained 10 pounds. Like, I don't need your help, but like, how are you feeling? Because I have like a runner, like I have cross country runners that gain weight and get faster at the same time, which is like a huge myth buster in the world of running. But it's all about that timing and the macro distribution. Like, it's a lot of very specific science that, like, that's why, like, not to brag, but like
it's some nice paperwork back there.
This isn't a weekend course I took, right? It's not something I found online.
For sure.
There's a lot of science going into this.
Yeah, and I would say when I work with clients, I like to work on like the basics and the foundation. Like, hey, we're gonna learn how to cook meals. We're gonna do this and so on and so forth. And if it's ever something as specific, like the stuff that you're talking about, it's like, hey, like I have a bunch of buddies. Like, I have a friend, she's getting her master's in dietetics, and now from you and TikTok and a lot of other people, like that stuff specifically, if we're going to talk about, like, that's important, but like, hey, let's make sure we have the foundational stuff first. But also, so as we're talking controversial things, I used to go do all of the diets because I was trying to lose weight and try to get that 12 pack as well. But now I do them to show that people don't need to do them.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I started doing carnivore, just get some TikTok clout and get some eyeballs. But yeah, lose like 7 or 8 pounds right away. But what people don't notice is my performance is garbage.
Yep.
So it's like, hey, like you lost some bloat, you lost 8-10 pounds, like that's phenomenal. It's like, as far as like healthy goes, may not be the best route since I'm not going to be doing it for life. But when you deal with people asking to do keto that are athletes, how hard is it to convince them to not do that?
Well, if it's like, if it's not a client, just someone just randomly DMs me, I'm not going to put like hours into trying to convince them. I'll just be like, no, you shouldn't do it. You need carbs. And if they try to argue with me, I'll be like, I mean, if you're not going to work with me, then that's on you. Like, I can't help you, right? I was explaining to them, you need carbs as an athlete. Like, keto might work for your parents, but it's not going to work for you because you're different. I haven't had a client ask. Usually when it gets to that point of working with me, it's one, they have a good idea, but like they need something specific for sports. And also it's like they trust my opinion, and also they're paying me, so they know that like, all right, like I'm just gonna listen to him. I'm not gonna try to do that. Like I've had a couple clients that like did intermittent fasting before working with me, and I was able to like get them off of it. Yeah. And even with intermittent fast, like even switching from it, they actually continue to lose weight or lost more weight in the beginning doing my nutrition plan versus intermittent fasting, because and they had more energy. So they, because they're intermittent fasting, but then they're eating a bunch of junk food because they were so hungry.
Right.
So yeah, and so not only did they lose weight, but their strength went up too because they were distributing the nutrients better.
Right. So the intermittent fasting, most people think that it's just fantastic, but it's just you're eating less calories. So what's the importance of nutrient timing that's spread out throughout the day? Because you said your athletes, like, they need to be eating snacks as well. So how is your body? It's not, I like to explain it that it's not like at the end of the day, your body takes count of, hey, I ate this many calories and I burnt this many calories. Like, it's a continuous cycle. So like, how do you kind of explain that throughout the day?
Well, it's the energy, it's the overall energy of it too. So like, as an athlete, you're burning so many calories throughout the day. So it's very rare that a young athlete needs to lose weight anyway. So intermittent fasting, if you're going to do it, should only be if you're trying to lose weight. Never if you're at maintenance or trying to gain weight, because it just doesn't make sense. Because why would you cut out meals? So for that, but let's say even if you are trying to lose weight, you can, all intermittent fasting does, as you said, it's you restrict your timing. So you skip meals and a snack. So all you're doing is restricting that window. So you're going to eat fewer calories. However, there's a couple things. One, even if you hit your protein goal in that window, which is hard because you're skipping meals, you need to distribute the protein because your body can only use so much protein at once for muscle protein synthesis. So if you're getting it in an 8-hour window, you're gonna have superfluous protein. So you're not spacing it out where you can use all that protein. So that's one issue. Two, if you're constantly using energy throughout the day, whether you have multiple workouts or if you're a student athlete, the brain is a big muscle, right? It uses up like 20% of the fuel in our body. So if you skip breakfast and the morning snack and you go all morning in class without food, you have less energy. So your academic performance is worse. So you don't learn the material as well. So you're getting bad grades and that affects your scholarship chances. Or since you weren't paying attention while in class, it takes you longer to do your homework and studying for the test. So now you waste time at night. You maybe get fewer workouts in. Better focus during this, get a good breakfast, good snacks, better focus in school. Now you have more free time at night. So that's one issue as well.
So only if people want to get better grades and better at sports, then they should come to you.
But yeah, I mean, I always emphasize that too. Like, when I work with an athlete, I'm not looking, they come to me just to obviously become a better athlete, but that's not the only thing I'm looking at. I'm looking at their academic performance because I know that is important. And that also increases your scholarship chances because if you play football or basketball, then it's whatever because they have a lot of money, they can afford it. But when you get I think what a lot of people don't realize is when you get an athletic scholarship at a school, it's not just like free money. The program, so let's say you play soccer, you get a scholarship, that soccer team is paying that tuition to the school. So if you get a $40,000 scholarship, that soccer team they get a budget from the athletic department, and that's $40,000 that they have to spend onto the school. if you get an academic scholarship, now there's limited scholarships per team. So let's say you get a half scholarship from the soccer team and a half academic scholarship, that counts as a full scholarship for the soccer team in terms of how many they can give out.
Okay.
But they only have to pay let's say it's $20,000 tuition. They only have to pay the school $10,000 because the school is paying the other $10,000. Nice. So let's say like they really want to give 2 players a full ride, but one player has a 2.9 GPA and is not getting academic money, and the other has a 4.0 and is going to get academic money, and they're equal skill set, or even if it's close, the one with that 4.0 GPA is going to get the scholarship offer because it saves the team money.
Interesting. Never even knew that was an option.
I didn't learn that until like I worked at the college level and like even years into it. So that's obviously a big thing, especially at the smaller schools that don't have unlimited money. So that's obviously always something to look into. And then, so that, and then also just in general, you have to qualify for the grade. You have to have certain grades to qualify as well. And just in general, like they want to see that you're doing well academically. So you're not going to, if you struggle with your grades in high school when you're under parental supervision, what are you going to do in college when you're on your own?
Right.
If you fail and you're academically ineligible, that screws over the team because that's a roster spot they have to make up for. So coaches will look at your academic performance.
For sure. So if anybody, if anybody's listening right now is looking to get you as a coach, where would they find you at?
So there's a couple of things. So I have a couple of things going on. So I have my own private practice, Full Circle Sports Nutrition. So if you go to fcnutritionnj.com, that's my website. And then at the top, you'll see the links to my different programs. And then on social media, so Instagram and TikTok, it's nutrition.with.derek. So that's where you can find me personally. And then I'm also part of another group of fitness and nutrition coaches that, so we're called the Fit Talkers. Kind of play on words because we all met on TikTok. So this one guy like kind of found us all and started messaging us like, hey, you want to join this group? And we did. So it's about, I think there's 10 of us in the group right now. And so it's literally Fit and then Talkers, TALKERS on
awesome.
Instagram and on TikTok. Yeah. So go follow me, go follow us there. So what we do is we meet every week. We talk about fitness stuff. Our main focus of this group is to call out all the BS in the fitness industry. So people that are promoting keto and black seed oil and apple vinegar, all that crap, like we call it out so people know to come to us for like the non-BS stuff. So like, and we have this following now where people like will go on TikTok and if they see like a post that seems questionable, like, is this real or not? They'll tag our group, they'll tag one of us in the group or a bunch of us and be like, tag us to get our opinion on it. It's like, we're known as the people that call out the BS on TikTok.
Yeah.
And we also have our own coaching as well. And we've come together to have this expo. So we actually had a mini expo this Saturday where it was like a 4-hour event with talks as like a warm up. And then in January, we're doing a full on expo. It's going to be 3 days long with a bunch of different talks from the 10 of us, plus some guest speakers. There's going to be talks about nutrition, fitness, mindset. It's meant for young athletes, it's meant for adults, like anyone, because they're all different topics. I'm going to be there. Obviously, the other coaches will be there. So obviously tickets are on sale for that. There's going to be a Black Friday sale coming up, I believe. So check out for that. So to find out more info on that, you guys can just follow, like I said, the Fit Talkers on Instagram and TikTok, and obviously follow me for info as well. And the link to sign up is in the bio on that page, and all the info for sales and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, definitely check us out on Instagram and get all the info on that.
That's awesome. Will that be in person or will that be online or where will that be?
Oh, yes. I should have specified that. Yes, it is most definitely a webinar.
Okay.
We are not, with COVID, obviously, we're not doing anything in person. They were actually talking when we first started this about like the 10 of us like getting a house together for the weekend and doing it.
Yeah.
So like it would still be online, but like we would all be in person, like present together.
Right.
But like then obviously the rapid second wave, I don't think we're going to do that. It's not travel restrictions, all that. It's not worth it. So it's all online. Yeah. It's still live. There's Q&As with each presentation. The other thing is like the presentations are recorded too. So you get like the recordings.
Nice.
And there's a bunch of freebies in there too. Like I have a meal guide in there. There's meal plans, cookbooks, all that kind of stuff for people that purchase it. So it's definitely great. We got a lot of good feedback just from our mini expo this weekend, the 4-hour one. We got a lot of people from that to sign up for the January event already. So it's definitely gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of education, crazy amount of stuff. Even stuff that I'm learning because from the other coaches. So
Right.
definitely check us out there and definitely sign up if you're trying to make improvements.
That's awesome. Well, fantastic. We will finish up with the last two questions that everybody gets.
All right.
So what is your definition of health? Not the dictionary definition, but kind of what do you strive for as far as what health is to you?
To me, health is being able to go through the day and do the things that you want to do without restrictions. So basically what I mean by that is like, and a lot of that plays off the regular definition of health. So like, for example, if you have diabetes, you can't really eat normally. You have to make sure you have this amount of carbs at this time, take your insulin, all that. So like, staying healthy to avoid diabetes so you don't have to struggle with food. So you can go out to eat and be comfortable, right? Being at a weight where if you are going out to eat or you're going to Thanksgiving this Saturday, right, or this Thursday, that you can, like, one, that you can afford calories, right? And also the mental health of it too, knowing that like one meal is not going to ruin everything. So when I go out to eat or when I go to Thanksgiving dinner, like I don't have to worry about, is this going to make me gain 10 pounds of fat or am I eating right? No, I want to be able to mentally enjoy being with my family, small family. We're being safe. It's literally just me and my parents, my sister and her kids. We all live in the same town, so we see each other anyway. But yeah, being able to enjoy that. Like I said, when I moved, right, being able to lift that stuff and not be in pain. So I'm not lifting for bulk, I'm lifting for health. So being able to do my activities, live every day mentally and physically without interruption.
For sure. Absolutely. I love it. And then from this podcast, what is something you think somebody listening could take away as a positive for their life?
Positive for their life is kind of like piggybacking off what my definition of health is. Like, you don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to be a certain way. You don't have to do things a certain way. You have to find what works best for you and set your own goals, right? And you'll be okay with that. Like I said, like I don't need to, I see on TikTok, I see all these jacked guys, huge biceps, 6-packs, right? Like, cool. Yeah, it'd be great to look like that, but like I would like to, right? I wouldn't mind it, but I don't have to. And I'm okay with not doing that. So understanding like what your goals are. People go to the gym, they spend 2 hours in the gym 6 days a week. I lift 45 minutes to an hour 5 days a week because I don't want to lift on the weekends, and that's fine with me. So finding what works, finding your own personal goals, and make your goals based on what's going to make you happy, not what's going to make other people happy.
Right.
Other people, I mean, aside from the trolls on TikTok, people don't care how you. Yeah, people don't care how you look, right? No. For the most part, people don't care that you're jacked or you have a 6-pack or anything like that, right? Yeah. So do what makes you happy. Set goals based on that.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, there we go.
Awesome.
That was fantastic.